Well, hello, YouTube family. Hope everybody's okay. Hope you're practicing your social distancing. I find myself distanced just in my little raggedy studio here. We'll talk about a guitar for you. This is a very plain and simple mahogany guitar. There's not much to it. It's light as a feather. It's a 2016 Gibson. Okay, so these weren't great times for Gibson, but they made an interesting guitar here. It's the SG Naked, and it's basically naked. There's not anything on it. No binding on the neck. It wasn't a very expensive guitar, but it's got some features you will not find in other Gibsons from the 2000s and up. Odd stuff on this thing. Two P90s, tones, volumes, switched. It's typical SG. Here's where it gets interesting. 24 3/4 inch scale. That's typical. Here's where it gets funny. Nut width. Is that my fingers go all the way around that? Why? 1.55. 1 9/16. 1960s, mid-60s Gibson specs on the neck. Thin, thin, thin up here. Now it does gradually get much wider down here than once you're out of four chords in the truth, your cowboy area. It gets much wider than a 1966, 67 SG. But up here, it's thin, thin, thin. And I like those thin nut Gibsons. You know, as musicians, we tend to put ourselves in a box. Guitarists especially. SG's it's a rock and roll guitar, right? It's the early days of hard rock. It's that kind of thing. We look at a Telecaster. Well, there's your country guitar. Well, wait a minute. Telecaster's for chicken picking. What about Chet Atkins? He played a Gretsch. What about Hank Garland and Billy Bird? They developed the Birdland with Gibson. What about Leon Rhodes? He played an Epiphone. So is a Telecaster the country guitar? Well, Steve Cropper used a Telecaster through all those Stax recordings of soul music. So is it a soul guitar? Well, if it's a soul guitar, then it's made for soul. And then Jimmy Johnson down at Fame and later Muscle Shoals Sound, Jimmy recorded all those soul songs on a Gretsch. So we can't put guitars in boxes. And the reason I say that is this is one of my soul music guitars. Yeah, I've played soul on Telecaster, played soul on a Gretsch, played soul on a 335. You play anything you want on any guitar, but we do tend to find boxes and put guitars in. I've used this for a lot of soul work with two P90s. It definitely does not have the sound of a dual humbucker guitar. It's much more Fender Jaguar Mustang-ish or Jazzmaster-ish or something like that with the two P90s. But I absolutely love it. This one's been beat up pretty good. It's been played a lot. I've played it a lot. It was played some before I got it. And I got it simply because it had this interesting nut width that you don't find. Late 16s, 2016, 17, 18, 15, 14. You found Gibson going wider and wider and wider. I've got an SG over there that's like 1.77. So it's like playing a big acoustic guitar or something. But for some reason, and they may have had leftover necks from the Angus Young guitar or something, but for some reason they went on this guitar only with that skinny late 60s, mid-late 60s nut width. And that was wicked. I love it. Anyway, it's a beautiful sounding guitar. Just wanted to take a moment to show the SG Naked. No longer made, but you can find them used just about anywhere. Put this up on standby. I was playing that, by the way, through a AC-15 with a little bit of tremolo, a little bit of reverb. Um, and the only reason I'm using and have used the AC-15 for most of the videos up until now is because it's sitting right here in front of me in this room, and you can see behind me I've got these old arena rockers, Earth and Plush 100 watters. There's a Vibrolux back here, several Tweed amps. I've got my Fender Deluxe, homemade Deluxe, over in the other side of the room. We'll pull it out and use it some. In the meantime, I've just been using the AC-15 because it's right in front of me, and the old AC-15 is one of my favorite amps. No, it's not Fendery. It's very British, but at the same time, it's got a lot of the sounds I like. Or maybe I go for Hank Marvin over, uh, an American sound. I don't know what it is. It's not me hung up on British invasion or anything. Although I will say, I do not have an AC-30 anymore because they will break your back. But I will say having an AC-15 and plugging like a Rick in it, a 330 Rick, I like to do my British invasion music. You get all your janglies. All your janglies. But anyway, 2016 Gibson SG Naked. They may have made the SG Naked for 2 years. I know they made it in 16. They may have made it 15 or 17. What I do know is the 2016 model does have 1 9/16. You're looking for that mid to late 60s nut width. You want that Angus Young type nut width because his signature has that thin nut. It may not get as wide up here. His signature model may not. It might. I don't know the specs. I do know that that's that mid late 60s, and I love that. And I have several guitars that have real thin nut widths, like 1 5/8, 1 9/16 are my two favorites. One, of course, 11/16 is what you find just about anywhere. 5/8 you find on a lot of Fenders. 5/8 and down to that 1 9/16 is kind of an oddity. You don't see that anymore without buying a vintage Gibson guitar, or maybe some of the surf type guitars that are custom made. I guess your Mosrites were a 1.5 even. They were 1.5. We'll pull out a Mosrite. Semi Mosley made them. I guess it's a Mosrite, but people call them different things. We'll pull out one of those sometime and take a look at it. It's 1.5 inch, so it's even thinner. I've got an old Grammar acoustic. The neck feels like a mandolin. We'll have to measure it. It may be thinner than 1.5, and because it's so thin, it has twisted a little bit over the years. So it's more of a wall hanger, but it's a Grammar G20. So even though it's a wall hanger, it's just a cool guitar historically, and that's the reason I have not dumped it. I keep it and sometimes play it in an open G or something. Anyway, back to the subject at hand. SG Naked. They're light as a feather, solid mahogany neck, rosewood fretboard, and on this rosewood fretboard, it's fat fretboard, so it's not a thin one. You get a lot of rosewood there, and typical standard Gibson headstock. Says made in the USA and blah blah blah. Give you the serial number. Grover tuners. It's a real simple guitar. Not a lot of bling on it. Not a lot of anything going on other than it's super light, and it really sounds great with the dual P90s. I love P90s in a SG. I've got many humbuckers in my other SG, but nothing real fancy on it. No pick guards, no fancy inlays. It's a very basic guitar. I do not know what it retailed for originally. I bought this used and have since not been afraid to, I don't want to say bang it up, not that I mistreat an instrument, but I have not been afraid to put it through some use, because it's not a super high-end monster flame SG Supreme with stuff all over it. So I bang it up a little bit, it doesn't really matter, it's just a piece of mahogany. And it doesn't hold any sentimental value to me. It's a little too new. But it plays great, and it feels good, and it's got that narrow nut down here. It does widen out enough that you can do some serious bends and things. But once you get on up the neck, I've never had a problem with these smaller nuts. Some people say they cannot stand them. There's a lot of jokes you guys can make about what I'm saying, but they want 1 3/4, and I think Gibson tried to accommodate that, and I'm not sure it was such a great idea because just before the company nearly fell apart and is now under new management, the neck's got about too big for me to play. Other people really liked them. A lot of people complained. It's just a toss-up. Everybody's different. When I say, hey, I've got a great guitar I want to show you, you may play it and think it's absolute garbage. That's why I encourage anybody to go out and put your hands on one, see what you think. I just want to present them so you'll know they even exist. I don't know that a lot of people knew. If you want a real thin nut, mid-late 60s feeling Gibson neck, this is about the only recent, in the last 20 years, reasonably priced SG you're going to find it in without going for an Angus. You can get it in the Angus, but the Angus Young SG is a heck of a lot more expensive than this little simple SG Naked. All right, folks, keep the faith, and let's not worry during this time. Let's concentrate on the things that matter. That's faith and family, and be a unified nation, but a nation that stands about 10 feet apart from each other. That's what we've got to do. I'll see you next time. What holds us all together? 6 breezy strings.